What the hell? Something like that. Yeah. It's something like that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the questionnaire. Yeah. You know, that means I am the unknown factor, right? AKA that Wade Wilson of hip hop. But as always, we ain't on hip hop tonight. Tonight, we're talking those books, and comics, and graphic, and all that good stuff. And maybe a few other odd, weird things as they tend to happen. And I kind of feel like between some forests and a little bit of Halloween, it may very, very well much get that way. Yeah, with Davey Baker in the house.
Thank you for having me.
You're like, see, I was honest about it, wasn't I?
Yeah, yeah. No, this is great. I'm into it.
Like,
I'm
like,
into it.
like,
I love the cape. I love it.
I told you it was gonna be. Now, Davey, I'll be real honest, man. I had to, children and life and work, and I don't get the time to read like I got. I so very quickly I had to go through Forest Hills. Right? And I just want to get into it right off the bat, man. That's what I want to do. That's where we're gonna start this. All right. That uh so I'm gonna kind of be spoilery, but not really. Like maybe
Okay.
yeah, a little bit, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what synopsis you have up for this book. So I may not
Uh-huh.
be spoiling anything. It may be something that you can just read online, and I need to shut up and continue. Um, that's why I need to shut up and continue. Isn't that a trick? So with that book, man, what made you go the way you did? As far as um, like, is that a personal story you've heard? Is it
Uh,
just like where did I guess that's more than anything is what I want to know. Where did this story come from? Is it some like did you know this person? Is this an experience? Like where where is it
sure.
just like a bunch of shit that you like because it happens. It happens. It happens a lot, man. Let's be honest. Like holy hell, man. It happens very publicly anymore based on, the fact that you can chat with anybody. I mean, I I wonder how many celebrities you can't find public breakdowns of to a certain degree at this point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so Forest Hills Bootleg Society is my original graphic novel, illustrated and co-created with Nicole Gu, that got published in September of last year. It's almost a year now. Oh wow, I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, almost a year. Um, and it's the story of four teenage girls who attend a conservative Christian boarding school in the middle of nowhere, California, who start a definitely not hentai distribution ring. It's just sexy anime that they burn on DVDs. Don't look too close. And they sell it to their conservative Christian boarding school, fellow students. And the book kind of charts their rise through the school, how this semi-illegal pastime ends up gaining them a lot of financial reward and also kind of ruins all of their friendships. And, and yeah, it's something that I participated in high school. It's something the editor of the book did in high school. I feel like I wasn't the one burning the DVDs. I was one of the kids like buying. Like I bought Advent Children, Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, the sequel anime to Final Fantasy in high school. That was the first one. And then I bought Cashern Battle Royale, and I don't remember the next ones, but there were a bunch of Japanese bootleg DVDs that I would buy from this kid named Max at my high school. Um, and so it's partly inspired by that, and then partly inspired by a clique of girls who went to my high school, partly inspired by the illustrator and co-creator Nicole, her high school experience. My sister went to a Catholic school, so some of it's based on that. There's little pieces here and there, based on stuff I observed. I'm from Arizona originally, so it's a pretty conservative place.
I don't mean to stop you, This book sounds like I need to get to the last book of yours that I didn't get a chance to get to before the interview. You didn't realize though when I was asking that whole question, it didn't sound like I was asking about that. I was
What?
asking about Tulip.
No, I thought you said Forest Hills. I'm
I,
sorry.
I did say Forest Hill, man, but then I went into like a bunch of celebrity breakdown shit.
I don't know. I just thought you were there. That was part of your kayfabe. I don't know. I was like, yeah, I guess, yeah, sure. I mean, I took you at your word. You asked me the book title,
I
so
mean,
I was like, oh,
it totally would. You know, like if I didn't just live up to my name, I don't know yeah. No, we don't do kayfabe over here though. That was just me misspeaking, which is hilarious that I misspoke that. Like I said, I went through it very quickly, and like I mean, I am Tulip, I am Tulip, I am Tulip. That's the
yeah.
book I was referring to.
Oh,
Just
okay, yeah. I mean, it's a similar story in that that book is also co-created with Nicole, so a lot of it is based on stuff we've seen, living here in Los Angeles. And also it's partly inspired. That book is partly inspired by multiple people online who've done that. There's a Russian performance artist named Dalvika. There's a couple American ones. Yeah, there's an American performance artist named Poppy. Um, and also Belle Delphine is another one who kind of at this point has sort of left the online sphere because I think things got a little tense for her. But yeah, all of those people, their stories are so strangely similar and also widely disparate that we got interested in them and started writing a project about them.
so it's just because that's how screwy entertainment business is. All right. Do you ever find any comparisons in the comic book biz and that
Oh,
story?
oh yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Especially when there's people who like try to orchestrate a persona and because comics is so kind of rinky dink, it doesn't quite work the same way, and it's pretty apparent when it does and doesn't work. Like Morrison, I feel like is a pretty solid example of it working. Like he constructed this kayfabe persona for himself that's based on all of these kind of shamanic ideas and chaos magic and thelemic satanism, and he kind of like boiled it all down and then was like superheroes. It's pretty one to one. And then there's other people where it's a little less successful. But that's fine. I like that stuff. I like it when people try and invent personas for themselves or embrace different kind of eras. I think that's cool.
That's I never thought of a comic book creator specifically doing something to that degree. You know what I mean? Like really, really putting on some kind of show, especially with how much they're watching nowadays. Don't you think it would essentially be hard to maintain that?
I mean, I think a lot of people do. Like, look at Paul Pope. Like, his whole idea is that his persona, like, Paul Pope is not that guy's name, you know? Same thing with Sterenko. Sterenko's whole, like, I was a performance art, like, escape artist, and I punched Bob Kane in an elevator. That didn't fucking happen. Like, that's all a persona that he's creating and inventing for himself, which I like. I don't believe half the things that Jim Sterenko says, but I love that he says them.
I'm not familiar with anything that he says in that regard, to be real honest.
He has a very flamboyant personality, and he claims that he was an escape artist in the 1940s, and he claims that there was a very famous incident where Bob Kane disrespected him in an elevator, and he slapped/punched Bob Kane. Um, Again, like I said, I don't believe that that happened, but I love that he continually says that it happened.
So wait, even nowadays he's saying that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, nowadays he's just mostly tweeting, weird political things. Uh, but yeah, he still says that it happened. Yeah. Mhm.
Weird Political
Yeah.
figures.
I mean, even to the degree that like he wears a costume, you know, like Jim Steranko's hair is a hairpiece, which is that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with wearing a hairpiece if it makes you feel more confident in who you are. But like he wears Jim Steranko suits. He has this giant shock of white hair. You know, he presents himself. You know, the man James, whatever the Steranko, whatever his middle name is different than the character Jim Steranko. The character Jim Steranko is flamboyant and acerbic and kind of larger than life, and only will take photos with women, which is really funny. If you ever go up to him at a convention and try and take a photo with him, he'll say no. But if there's a woman there, he'll take a photo with the woman. Yeah. There's also a really funny story. I don't know if you've ever seen that book. I forget. I think it's called In the Studio or In Their Studio. It's a collection of photography all about artists' studios and workspaces. And the guy who made that book has a really funny story about him going to Jim Steranko's house to take a photo of him in the studio. And Jim answered the door without his wig in a kimono because he didn't realize who the guy was. And he was like, "Oh, hey, Jim, I'm here to take a photo of you in the studio." And he was like, "Oh, hold on. Mr. Steranko's in the back." Closes the door, changes suit, puts his wig on, and comes out and goes, "Hello, I'm Jim Steranko." Like, I love it. I think that's great.
I'm sorry. I can't imagine ever like it. That's a lot to put on that amount of performance. You know.
And some people, you know, that's their whole thing. I get it. You know, I think it's cool that, you know, art would extend past the pages, you know, and into someone's real life. Like I said, some people I think it's less successful, but I think it's always interesting when someone tries those things.
What would you say is a less successful case of that?
I think there's a few, you know, I think some of the image co-founders have tried at various points to do stuff like that, and it's always pretty cringy. One of them specifically is very angry online and very obviously jealous of the other members of the founding crew, which is a little unfortunate. Um, and has a pretty negative outlook on things and likes to try and spin things in this like I love comics, I just love comics, and then does all of this really kind of underhanded stuff. Um, and then there's also people like Doug TenNapel who are just terrible human beings. And yeah, he's one of those types that, in some ways, it's a performance piece. Or even a lot of the Comicsgate guys, like Ethan Van Sciver, his whole like Caesar persona, you know, like he's just a dumpy dude in New Jersey, but he pretends that he's like this like leader of a cultural movement, and it's like, are you though? All right, whatever, man. Best of luck with your Cyberfrog Kickstarter that's 4 years late or whatever. Yeah, you know. Like I said, like, but I think that there's a lot of people who do that in great ways, and there's people who give back to the community in very exciting and interesting ways, and you know, I think that there's lots of positive social change happening, and this idea of embracing kayfabe or having a larger than life persona for some people really helps them get to that next level in their career. And some people, they try to do that and it doesn't quite. Um, for me, I think it's mostly like because comics is such a kiddie pool and there's like 9 people in it. When that motivation doesn't come from kind of kindness, it's pretty apparent, and unfortunately, it kind of bites people in the ass.
I mean, I understand a couple of the points you're making, but at the same time, I think in any kind of entertainment, it is important to to. I mean, notch yourself. I don't have to notch myself up a little if I need to turn down a lot, but that's besides the point. Like you know, there are people like that too, though. There are people like that are just a little too cranked up on, like, yeah, like I think Johnny Depp is probably a good, like, he can just always go, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Like, um, I mean, I could name a billion other people from Howard Stern to God knows who else, but then there are a lot of other people in that regard. Man, I fucking ramble on to the point. I forgot my point, Davey. I did. whatsoever.
Okay.
I really did, man. I just started rambling on, and then my brain said a name, and it thought, and like, hmm, too many tangents.
Yeah.
Within that, ladies and gentlemen, give me 1 second. Flip. Um, but it is funny within the list of names that you brought up. There's only one that I know, and that's the very last one. And whatever. Yeah, huh?
You don't know who Paul Pope is? I feel like he's a pretty mainstream creator. He did Batman Year 100, 100%,
I
uh, Heavy Liquid, THB.
I was bad when I read comics initially, and it's only probably about the past uh 2 years where I really started paying attention to all the names. You
Oh,
know,
okay. Who were you follow? Were you following artists more or writers more? Or?
I mean, when I was young, because there was about a 5 year point where I wasn't collecting comics, and then I've gotten
Mm-hmm.
into them probably in the past 2 years really heavy again. But like, no, you
Mm,
know, um, but before that, man, I mean, I read a lot of Marvel, I read a lot of Image, I read a lot of the other
mm,
guys like Dark Horse and this and that. Um,
yeah.
but had a tendency to follow not creators, but more characters than anything else. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I was reading,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, I read the X-Men, I read Deadpool, I read Aliens, and then I go off on offshoots sometimes. Like, dude, I can't tell you. You know, if you've read comics since you were like 12 and you've just pretty much read them your whole life, I've read a lot of a little bit of everything. Always been a fan of things a little bit more dark, to be real
Mm-hmm.
honest. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, now I do definitely more follow creators. But yeah, man, I can't. But firstly, you think I did? Nobody can remember all these damn names. Firstly, and it's probably right now more than anything I can sit here and tell you a lot of creators' names because they've been on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
I get it. It's also one of those things of like comics creators, they're it's the bottom of the barrel in terms of the celebrity circuit. You know what I mean? Like it's not like there are no famous comic book celebrities outside of the industry. Like there's people I consider like, oh my God, like this person is so famous and I love them. And I've had the privilege to meet some of those people and they were so nice and generous and they were great experiences. But but if you put that person in a grocery store, like no one's gonna know who they are. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that Dave Gibbons has to worry about going to his local Kroger's, to stock up or whatever. I feel like most people are like, "Ah, sick. That's that guy." Like, no, no, no one cares. I mean, I
you don't,
care. I
you don't,
100% care.
you don't think there's a single creator out there that like maybe defies that rule a little right
No, not
now?
anymore. Not that are alive. I think there was one, but he's dead now. Um,
Oh, well, oh, yeah, man. I had the benefit of meeting him when I was 15, which was
mm,
which was a lot of years ago, and it was way before like it was when Blade was coming out,
mhm.
you know. So it was he wasn't
Yeah.
to the
Yeah, he
he
wasn't
couldn't
he
yeah
wasn't what he was when he passed away. Yeah, totally.
yeah, and then I had a chance to like actually talk to the man for a moment, and it was a really cool interaction. Um, you don't see the only reason I say only maybe one is only because of the popularity of The Walking Dead. And
Maybe. I still don't I don't think that people know what he looks like. You know what I mean? Like case in point, if Robert Kirkman is standing next to a giant sign that says Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, yeah, I think he would get mobbed instantly. Here's the thing. I was at San Diego, no, Emerald City a couple years ago, and he knows a bunch of my friends. I don't know him, but he knows a bunch of my friends, and we were all tabling in a row. So Robert came over and was talking to the person that was next to me because I'm friends with a bunch of Kansas City people, and he lived there for a while or whatever. He was part of that Kansas City Mafia crew or whatever. And we're standing in a convention center, which is one of the top 10 conventions in the world for comics in a place where there's a ton of people that know comics. We were in an artist gallery. It's not like we're on the general show floor, and nobody was batting an eye. Like, he was just standing there wearing a baseball cap, talking to my next door neighbor or whatever, and like, I was like, hey, that's Robert Kirkman, that's cool. Nobody else gave two fucks. Like, I mean, again, not to diminish him, I think he's awesome. I love Walking Dead, I love Invincible. He's done a lot of, I really like Haunt. I'm like the one guy that liked Haunt. But like, I don't in terms of a mainstream celebrity sphere, no, I don't think you would necessarily have a big problem going to the grocery store.
I can't really argue the point with you. It's not like anybody in the comic book industry is publicized with their pictures. Like,
Yeah.
it's. I mean, when you're a comic book artist, or you're a writer or anything, or color anchor, whatever you're doing, if you're posting things online, you're not posting pictures of yourself doing
Yeah.
something. You're posting pictures of whatever you're doing as far as upcoming. So it does cause that, as far as though I can't think of some creators that do post videos of themselves online like that. Like, I think McFarlane and Leinfeld both
Mhm.
do, and I'm
And
sure
Elsa
they.
Chartier and,
Yeah.
Francis Manipal, and there's a lot of people who've developed Yoshi Yoshitano. There's a lot of people who've developed real, significant followings on social media, excuse me. Which is really great. I love that stuff. I follow all those people, I'm there hitting that heart just like everybody else. I love it.
Well,
Um,
well, let
but
me
I think
ask
that
you. Oh, no, no, because yeah, man, because I mean, you make a valid point. Well, let me ask you this though: do you think it's possible ever to make it to where comic books get to the point where they reach a mainstream like the movies have? And I mean, motherfuckers actually reading comics,
yeah.
right? Because
Oh, you know what? Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman might be the only other person that's like, he is a comic book person, but also because of his attachment to these other things, he might have problems going to the grocery store or whatever. Yeah. But do I think that comics would ever, are you asking, like, do I think that somebody that makes the comics will get to the point of a, Chris Evans or whatever that's attached to one of the movies?
I mean, no, 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 no. Do you think comics will ever reach the level of popularity, or even I'd say half the films have, as far as just people consuming them? Because obviously, even with the MCU and what it's done in the past decade plus, I couldn't date it exactly right now, to be real honest. Um, it's not helped the comics as much as one thinks they would. You know what I mean? And then we've had several discussions in regards to this on the show, as far as selling points and this and that, putting them in movie theaters, all kinds of things. But I'm just curious, from your perspective, do you think it's ever possible for comics to begin to?
Um,
Whoa,
do I think it's possible? Sorry, somebody just called me on my laptop.
you're right.
Sorry. Do I think it's possible? Yeah. Do I think it's likely? Probably not. Do I think that that is, something that I want to actively contribute to and pursue and try and make comics that are approachable to both comic book readers and, the layman, the civilian? Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the stuff that I make specifically, it's very kind of digestible from a non superhero, non dyed in the wool direct market perspective. I like those things. Uh, I'm a Wednesday warrior. I go every week. But I also am frustrated by many of the decisions and the purchasing patterns and the business of comics, both on the publishing end and on the distribution end and on the retail end. Like, there's so many choke points and so many places that are um, confusing or disadvantageous or uninviting to new readers, that it's very exciting to me when things like, the Penguin Random House distribution deal, or when Diamond loses exclusive rights over specific companies, which will remain nameless. Just because I'm interested in new things happening, and maybe they'll be worse, maybe they'll be better, but at least it'll be something new. We already know that a monopoly on direct market periodical distribution doesn't work. So let's fuck it up and see what the next thing is. Um, and like, that's, I mean, that's, yeah, but if you look at the stuff that I make, a lot of it is with the created with the eye to attempt to be accessible to people who've never read a comic, while simultaneously also using the form of the medium to do things that have not been done before. I'm very interested in the formal side of comics. I'm very interested in the mechanisms of the medium and pushing things that have not been done before. And the best way to do that is by presenting it to people who maybe have no prior exposure to it, which is why I think grids are really inviting to people who have not read comics previously, because it's easy to understand top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right. And also why so much of my work starts with grids and then moves into other things formally, because you kind of like, it's like a video game design where you teach someone how to play the game. When you're making comics, you teach someone how to read the book. So you start with grids, and then you move to splash pages, and then you move to more formally inventive things, which hopefully enriches the reading experience and converts someone into being a fan of the medium, not just whatever the specific genre is that they're reading.
It's funny because I mean that again is a discussion we've had on a lot of the show as far as how it can be intimidating in the comic book store for someone that's a new reader. Like if you just, I liked the whatever Marvel or DC film, or I enjoy The Walking Dead, or and in all honesty, excuse me, that's probably one of the easiest as far as if you enjoy The Walking Dead. Oh, you do? Well, which volume one do you want, the thinnest or the thickest? So
Yeah. And also the language of The Walking Dead is not, it's created using cinematic language. Like, it doesn't have captions, it doesn't have thought balloons, it doesn't have any sort of bells and whistles that are attributed with other potential genres in the medium of comics. It's purely panel to panel storytelling that mimics the way a camera moves. Which is fun. I don't want everything to be that way, but I think it makes a lot of sense thematically, because the raison d'etre of Walking Dead is it's the zombie movie that never ends. So it being a comic made using filmic language makes sense.
It's still funny to me that he was told that would never work, and I mean, it doesn't seem like it would have, to be real honest.
Dude, the first issue sold 600 copies. It didn't work.
But no,
just
I thought they only printed 600 copies of the first issue.
That's what I'm saying. It sold 600 copies.
But then they had to reprint it.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it didn't work. It sold 600 copies, and just by sheer force of will, that dude, even after his artist quit, that dude was just like, no, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna go into debt. He went into like $30,000 in debt doing that first, couple years of the book, and then working at a lamp shop or a lighting fixtures shop or something. Like it's a miracle that not only did that book eventually find a way to success, but developed the following that it did and spawned a media empire the way that it did. It is at every choke point they lost, and yet somehow he managed to finagle a way to keep going. And I have the utmost respect for that guy.
Ah,
Like, you don't most people are not allowed the amount of fuck ups that The Walking Dead has survived. And I think that's really cool.
that's one way of putting it. Yeah. So, oh, all right. Fair enough, man. It makes me realize, man. I think you know way more about the fuck ups of The Walking Dead than I do. I'll tell you that. Right?
I mean, I don't know that I know anything that's insider info. I just like comics history, and that's like one of my favorite books for a long time. It's just one of those things that I don't think I have any sort of insider info or anything. It's just it was a fluke on a fluke on a fluke on a fluke, which is so impressive and so fantastic. And I wish more books were allowed to fail for that long, because now it's like, your issue 1 sales get halved for issue 2, your issue 2 sales get halved again for issue 3, and then issue 4 it kind of settles into what it's going to be. So if you sold 600 copies of a book today, they wouldn't even distribute it. They literally wouldn't do it because it just you're not gonna you're already like the image model is you need to sell like 2,500 copies in order to pay the printing bill and break even. So after 2,500, that's when the creative team is making money. So you want to sell like if you're really like grinding by, you want to sell like 5 to 10,000 copies. So 600 is just it's a non-starter. Like they just would today they just wouldn't even solicit issue 2. They would put out that first issue and then be like, "Sorry, kid, you had your shot," you know.
Damn. Yeah. That's a. Do you think that makes it important then to kind of really contemplate doing original graphic novels like you have, as opposed to yeah, that
Yeah,
way, yeah,
that's one way around it. But the OGN thing presents its own types of problems. Like it's not a silver bullet because the
oh,
OGN thing is like it takes like 2 years basically. You get your green light from the publisher, you spend a year making the book, and then the publisher keeps it for basically a year and they pre-sell it to a bunch of distribution chains, right? Oh, we're going to go to Barnes and Noble, and Barnes and Noble is going to take X number thousand, and we're going to, submit it to Diamond, and Diamond will take X number thousand, and Lunar will take this, and Books a Million will take that. And then the book comes out, and it hopefully does gangbusters, but let's be real, it's books, so it doesn't. And then there's like a 3-month window where it's like the book is out, the creators are trying to drum up publicity, you're talking, you're saying, hey, check out the thing, check out the thing. And then, it settles into whatever kind of dribs and drabs is going to do. And so a lot of people use the loss leader of sequential single issue periodicals almost as advertising, where it's like, I know that this is going to lose money in single issues, but once we get to the trade, then we'll get a bump. And then the single issues will continue along and they'll act as advertising for both the first trade and the next one. So that's the math of single issues is like you're kind of always heading down. Attrition is always going to win, but the idea is that the attrition goes slow enough that it points enough people back to your trade so that those two data streams can kind of do this. So you can kind of like slowly grind into an oblivion while getting enough sales from the trades to pay and offset the single issue losses. Which is just it's impossible. Like in the market currently, it's very difficult to have a long form ongoing book. By the time you hit 25 issues, which again is like 2 years of a weekly book or a monthly book, it's murder on the crew, it's murder on the artist. It's very difficult to amass a following that really wants to stick with a book that long. But if you get enough of those trades on the shelf, the trades act as a self-reinforcing ordering switch for retailers. Because if the first trade comes out, maybe you'll get a couple retailers that'll go, oh yeah, I believe in this book, I'm gonna order heavy on it, a bunch of these. You get a second book, now every time somebody buys the first one and there's a second one on a shelf in a comic book store, the retailer's pressured to reorder that first one where they might not because they already have the sunk cost. When there's 3, that doubles your math of like, now you've got these 3 books kind of like cycling in and out, forcing retailers to order books again and again and again. And by the time you get to 4, oh my goodness, all these people calling me. By the time you get to 4, that's usually when, if you make it to 4, the money starts to kind of work in your favor a little bit. But it's pretty hard to get to 4. It's not easy.
that's intriguing. I never thought about it like that, as far as in the aspect of having the graphics and the retailers having to, keep it in sequence. And then I think about it even funnier, and I'm like, that's funny. I made my local comic book store do that quite a bit. Like I'll come in and buy a graphic, and then I'll notice it's gone, and I'll come in and pick up number 2. And when I come back, they'll have number 1, but they won't have number 2 yet, but they'll have number 3, and I'll take.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because every time you order something that's further down the line, it's another risk for the retailer. And that's the other thing that's kind of broken about the direct market specifically is publishers aren't selling to readers. Artists aren't selling to readers. We're all selling to retailers, which is why when you find a retailer that really believes in you and really will go out on a limb and order your books and push them on readers and are good at their job of, generating interest in books that are not named Deadpool, like it's a godsend. The amount of retailers that are active and talking to people and really genuinely pushing new creator owned exciting works, they're worth their weight in gold, man. Like there's it's a very specific type of person that has a very specific passion, and there aren't enough of those people, and every time one of those people like comes into the ecosystem, it's their impact is just outsized. Like it's amazing what a positive relationship with even one or two retailers can do.
What do you think is the overall thing that could help the comic market as a whole, then, as far as to really have a revival? I mean, because it used to be, issues, they used to sell a lot more issues back in the 90s. You know what I
Yeah, I mean,
mean? Like, it's not, it's a very, very large difference in numbers. So, what do you think could be done in the modern way of things that we run as a society to make it to where you had a larger comic book market as far as people getting comics individually or
I think
graphic
there's
or
yeah,
anything?
I think it's not a zero sum game. It's not like, oh, if this one thing was different, it's a bunch of different things. I think one, there needs to be more women involved in retailing, and that's changing, and it's a huge benefit to everyone, because there's a specific subset of kind of, speaking candidly, older white dudes who started stores in the 90s or the 80s, and they don't have their finger on the pulse of what young people want now. And that's why you get, retailers ordering heavy on, insert big two book here, which has been rebooted 500 times, because it's this, they're trying to cater to a smaller and smaller and smaller pool of readers. So we
Hey,
need
hey, Batman.
right. Yeah, totally. I mean, how many times can we do Batman? Like, I love Batman. I love Batman. But like, yeah, maybe we could do some other things too, you know?
It's not even that. It's the fact that they put out like, man, look, Dave at Comic Q, he showed me the stack of Batman books compared to DC, and it's like, okay, so here's all the Batman, and it's like 8 different things of 8 different things, and then there's like 2 other things coming out from DC that week, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Why? What the fuck is this? What is? Why? Why? This is completely unnecessary. I think it was
Yeah.
about half of the Night Terror saga was Batman books.
Yep. So I think there needs to be more women involved in retailing. I think books need to be less expensive. Like, I get it. I understand why they are. I'm a self-publisher as well as being published by companies like Dark Horse and Simon & Schuster and working on Star Trek and Turtles and all these things. I get it. 100%. I am well aware of the cost of paper. That being said, if AOL, Time Warner, Discovery can't afford to make a book for less than
Mm,
$5,
mm.
something's wrong. Like, we got it. They just need to be less expensive. Like, I went to the shop a little while ago to pick up that new Ultimate Invasion book. 8.99, 8.99 for a single issue comic. Sorry, bro, not me. I wanted that book. I went there specifically to get it. Oh my goodness, I went there specifically to get it, and yeah, no, just didn't buy it.
Uh, you know, what's your opinion of the Hollywood strike?
That David Zaslav needs to pay these motherfuckers.
Okay, so think about the statement that you just made, Davey, right? And how many other people it could be said about as well. And that if for the last, I don't know how long, it wasn't just an increase in the rich and that was it. and there was really no other thing. It became trickle down economics, but just people didn't understand what that really meant when it was said. As far as just we weren't they weren't raining coins, man. They were eating and drinking, and we were getting the remains. You feel me? That was trickle down economics, right? So say you switch that, everybody suddenly like. Because firstly, yeah, I totally agree with that strike. I half think the world needs to strike to a certain degree to all these billionaires. I just don't know how it would turn out. It'd be real interesting if everybody was just like, look, fuck it, fair pay, or y'all, cause look, I'm sick of the you don't need 16 crowns. No, dude, I'm gonna shove that ring up your ass, man. It's one of 3,000, right? Like kind of thing, you know, to where we did just have it to where, it's a little more balanced. I'm not saying like there can't be rich people, but I'm saying, Jesus Christ, come
Yeah.
on now, what's going on? Let's really look
Yeah, I
around and
mean,
yeah.
both the SAG-AFTRA strike and the WGA strike are just like they're fighting for like the future of entertainment, not even just to get paid. Like the fact that the studios won't agree to not use AI is I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Like that's so shady. It's so shady.
uh,
Like
well, I mean, one of the biggest studios out there technically already has used AI art. Man, you seen that, didn't you?
oh, you talking about Marvel with the Secret Invasion intro? Yeah, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Fuck that. Frankly, I didn't watch Secret Invasion because of that. I was like,
And
mm-mm.
you and Mike Ruth both. All right, I understand. I'm a real big Samuel L. Jackson fan. I always have been, and it's look. I had to watch it. I skip that damn intro every time, but I will say, have you seen the intro?
I've seen clips of it online, yeah.
Okay, it is literally the worst intro I think I have ever seen for a show. All right. Now, apparently, there are worse out there for like 80s and 90s sitcoms because they had to redo them and this and that are like currently out there to watch. I don't really give a damn though. But as far as for a production that had that behind it, yeah, dude, it looked bad. Especially when you compare it to like the intro for Hawkeye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, which yeah, or Peacemaker. Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal intro. Yeah, it really was. Baby, you're right. Um, that's a good solid one though. So, what's your thoughts on that, then, man? AI? Because I mean, I agree. It is kind of terrifying that they won't agree not to use it as a Hollywood production company. But I don't. Yeah, like, do you think they'll ever agree not to use it? I don't. Dude, I don't think that's the point you're gonna get a rich ass studio executive to agree to
Yeah,
when he's the
I
person with
mean,
the money. He's not the person with the thought of creating, like maybe Kevin Feige. I could see maybe Kevin Feige being like, all right, fine. Everybody hated the Secret Invasion intro. You guys were right. It fucked up, and this is because I mean he has to be at least some form of artist in thought and mind because there's no way what has happened could have happened if that wasn't the case. He
yeah.
has
I
to
mean,
have
just look at
artistic
what
brain.
happened with DC and the DC extended universe, right? Like it's just like it's a clown car filled with fucking dachshunds over there, like pretending to be a movie studio. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
like some of the DC movies. I'm not a a complete uh you know hater, but just objectively, the MCU did the building a universe and building towards a team up thing, and the DC movies just couldn't handle it. They couldn't get it together.
they had a problem with not just chilling and playing catch up. They just wanted to be there right then, right? But I think it's
Mhm.
funny. Wait, isn't the Rocketeer DC property?
Nope.
Is it?
Rocketeer is created by Dave Stevens and published by initially Pacific and then later Comico and then later IDW. That's who has him right now.
Who might know? Okay. Yeah, because I thought I could have sworn he was in DC for a moment, and now I could see maybe he was for like some kind of team up to where they didn't actually own him though, and that might be what I'm thinking of.
Maybe you're thinking of the Superman Rocketeer crossover. Dave Stevens tried to get DC to do a Superman and Rocketeer crossover, but they didn't want to do it. Yeah, that was going to be the third volume because the first one ended with the graphic novel out through Comico, and then Dark Horse had it for a minute, and that's when he did Cliff's Big New York Adventure, which is where Cliff Seeker definitely doesn't team up with the Shadow. There's just a guy named Lamont that he hangs out with who can turn invisible. And then yeah. And then that was the last one that Dave Stevens did, and then they've done a bunch of miniseries and anthologies during the IDW era. They did one called Cargo of Doom with Chris Somney doing the art and Mark Waid writing. They did a recent miniseries last year, which I did not read, and I don't remember who was on that. And an anthology of stuff maybe 5 years ago or so.
And man, I will say for your out of comic book movies that did the comic book the least justice, you picked one that's never been on that side. It's been on the other a couple times. So I take it you're a big Scott Pilgrim fan?
I love Scott Pilgrim. Yeah.
Why do you think the comic didn't do that, or the movie didn't do that comic justice? I'm curious. Because I've heard the other answer.
Yeah. Did I put that as the the least successful one on the questionnaire? That might have been a mistake.
I mean, not the least, just that you didn't think it did the comic justice.
Yeah, I don't know that I think that. I must have misread that question, being like, which one do you think really? I think I probably thought it was you were asking the other question, because I love that movie and I think it does. I think it does the comic justice. The ending is different, obviously, but I actually like the ending of the movie.
Yeah, no, I wanted to know what comic book movie you thought did least justice for the comic book.
Oh wow, there's so many. There's so many. Justice League, Man of Steel. There's throw a dart at any of the mid 2000s one. Fantastic Four, Rise of Silver Surfer. Like Elektra, Daredevil, Ghost Rider. Any of those movies are like, I guess this is the thing, kinda.
I enjoyed Ghost Rider. I thought that was all right.
Johnny Blaze being obsessed with eating jelly beans.
I mean, they didn't nail that character. I guess it's just nostalgia more than anything. Look, I was happy to have him on screen more than anything else. Like, I guess more than anything though, is if you're gonna go early, like if you're gonna throw darts, I think if you hit Blade, you go, yeah, that was a good one.
Blade is great. Blade 2 is fantastic. Blade 3, it's a movie.
Hey,
you know what? I recently rewatched? Blade the series. Have you ever seen that? The live action Sticky Fingers Spike TV original series Blade?
I could never get into it.
Dude, that shit is so bad. Like,
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I tried to watch it a few times. And I even tried to watch the movie when they were wrapping it, and it was just like, I was like, this is just bad.
Yeah, it's not high quality. But the thing that's most interesting about that to me is that Jeff Johns was the showrunner and creator of the Blade series, which is really like, wow, like King DC running one of Marvel's first TV shows. That's so random and bizarre. And the main villain, the main vampire, is named after Ethan Van Sciver.
Hey, man. That's not Marvel's first TV show. You respect the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, and Captain America shows from back in the day. All right.
Okay. You're right.
All right. They tried.
That Hulk show is fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. Yeah, with the Hulk, they did fairly well because I mean, It's like, we don't have CGI, but we got Lou Ferrigno. It's like,
He's
oh,
huge. He's huge. I've met the man. He's massive. Like, I would not fuck with Lou Ferrigno if he was coming at me. I would
I
not
don't.
fuck with that.
Yeah, I've never met Lou Ferrigno, but I remember when I was 15, I met Kevin Nash, and I had my picture with him, and he put his hand on my shoulder right there, and man, that shit felt like a bear paw.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Kevin
know?
Nash, aka Super Shredder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I
Most
feel like he
people.
did a couple other comic book things too, right? Was he
Um.
in Street Fighter, Legend of Chun-Li, maybe?
Well, I don't know as far as movies, but I do know he had his own comic book.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I got a sketch from the artist that drew it back in, like, oh my god, that was forever ago.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, he did. Yeah, I've got the comics still somewhere too, I believe.
Wow.
I don't know that it
Oh,
ever went beyond a
you know what
single
I'm
issue.
thinking of? You know what I'm thinking of? The 2004 Tom Jane Punisher. He plays the
Oh,
guy in
yes,
the
the Russian.
like the Russian guy, yeah,
Yeah,
with the weird
no,
Popeyes.
it's just the Russian. That's the character's
Yeah,
name. Because I read
yes.
the comic too by Garth Ennis. Because I think that's the thing that was greatest about any of the Punisher films were pretty much I think things they took from Garth Ennis. Because for some reason, those things tended to work thematically.
Yeah.
You know, um, like they really did. Garth Ennis just, I think, very much in his style of writing. I think he very much tells stories that work really well in film and TV, which is obvious and not. I don't know. I think Preacher they should have given Preacher a bigger goddamn budget because
Yeah.
But that was the just for everyone that knows. If you've watched Preacher, that's the main problem with that show is because they couldn't do what was in the comic because they would have been spending what, like Lord of the Rings money, I think.
Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah.
Yeah. you know. So there's that. So let's ask Davey, out of curiosity, now that we've gotten all into this, whatever got you into comics in the first place, man? Why were you like, gonna write comics? And
Yeah.
then after figuring out all the business side of it that you have, as far as all the numbers you explained earlier with graphic novels, and you need to get up to volume 4 and this and that, and there were a lot of numbers, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to hear it again, go back. I ain't repeating all that crap. I already got to edit it, right? Um, why do you continue?
Why do you continue? This is a good question, man. This is a good question. I got into it. I was really into like boy detectives and girl detectives as a little kid. Nancy Drew is like my favorite thing ever. Um, and the Hardy Boys. I love the Hardy Boys. Um, Trixie Belden, all those kind of like, they're like 16, 15, and they're solving mysteries around their town type books. And at my local library in Tucson, Arizona, some librarian had gotten a complete run of all of the Belgian comic Tintin. And because he's kind of a, boy detective-y type character with a talking dog, I was just obsessed. And Tintin changed my life. I wanted to draw like Hergé. I recently went to Belgium and went to the Hergé Museum and saw all the original artwork and like, saw they have a giant room where it's just all of the covers from the various Tintin, or as they originally were pronounced, the Tintin uh, Tintin volumes. It's unreal. It's unreal. It was like going to Mecca for me. I was like, this is the craziest fucking thing I've ever done. Um, and yeah, Tintin changed my life and got me interested in comics and drawing and telling stories. And uh, from then on, I kind of just was hooked. And I read uh, Sunday morning strips and superhero stuff and Franco-Belgian stuff all throughout childhood. And then my first job was in a comic book store. In high school, I worked in a store in Arizona, and then in college, I worked at a different store. And then after college, I worked at a Borders and at that same different comic store. So I've kind of always just been around books. I love I love writing and telling stories, and been self-publishing comics since I was like 17, most of which are terrible. And then you slowly get better over time, right? You just kind of you figure things out, you learn. Yeah, so I've been doing it ever since. And why do I not stop? That's a great fucking question. I don't know, because what else am I gonna do with my time? Like literally, what else am I gonna do? You know, like I'm just out here.
Such an optimistic answer on your part, Dave. Like, why don't I stop? I don't fucking know.
I mean, but I think the thing is, like, you just, you're in it for different reasons, over time. Sometime the beginning, you're in it to try and make a living, and then you realize that's just not feasible. So you get a job, and then you're in it as a means of self-expression, and then that has its own reward. And then you're in it as a means of this weird hobby that you do. And then you're in it because it's your identity. And then you're in it because it's a way of connecting with people in this very strange, intimate way. And then you're in it because you've been in it so long, and it's the thing that provides you the most joy. And when you're not doing it, you don't feel like yourself. So it's an ever evolving answer.
That was a very interesting, very multi-leveled answer that is very intriguing, that I feel like we could review on 6 different levels, to be real honest. Because you do make a valid point as far as the community, as far as the comic community. What do you think it is that causes that community to be like it is? And do you think there's a way to make it like, because look, this is something I've heard on both ends, and I've heard it be bad, I've heard it be good, but a lot of the times people say that community can be kind of like, oh, you don't read comics, you're not cool.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a weird level of, gamesmanship or, testing that can happen in nerd spaces, especially if you're a woman. It's just the worst. Dudes suck, man. There's so much just like, do you even know who's on your shirt? Like, yeah, that's Jim Lee. Yeah, that's adjectiveless, whatever for. That's the, is inked by Scott Williams. And then it's like, but who was his inker on Uncanny? Dan Green. And there's just always like, you're always having to prove yourself in that context. I've seen it happen to people that I'm friends with, that I'm close with, and it's just but when the community is positive, which it is a lot of the time, I think it's it's both ways. There's people in the community that are fucking shitty and dumb, and there are people in the community that are just the most kind and giving and best humans that you've ever met. And I think there's a sense of kind of outsider loyalty that we all have towards one another. There's a sense of a shared common language. There's a sense of an instant connectivity and intimacy that is beyond a traditional relationship, largely due to the fact that the medium that we are all obsessed with is a very isolating and insular thing. It's a literal, you're by yourself reading it. It's not a communal experience like going to a music or theater or film. It's not something you experience en masse. It's something you experience on an individual level, which is one of the reasons, again, why it's so addicting and fun when you're exchanging information, because the medium itself is so individualistic that two people can read the same story and get wildly different conclusions from it. And that exchange of information is the best. It's so fun when you're at a Denny's at 2 a.m. and somebody's arguing about like, that's not what the book meant, bro. Or like, I hate the way Ron Lim draws fucking Silver Surfer's abs. There's too many of them, like that thing, like that minutia is, at least for me and my friends, where a lot of the joy comes, because even when there is a disagreement or people who come at things from different perspectives, that friction is exciting, and that friction is something that allows us to see beyond whatever the initial experience was reading the book. And that's all you really hope for as an artist, right? You hope that the work that you create sparks connection between you and the reader, but then also between the reader and the reader. And fingers crossed somebody hates the way I draw Silver Surfer's abs one day as well. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Life goals in comics. Hope somebody hates me for the way I draw someone's abs one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's a fairly interesting goal, Davey. I don't know that, like, so does that mean if you ever get a chance to draw Silver Surfer, you're just gonna be like, I'm gonna fuck these up?
I don't think anyone's ever gonna put me on Silver Surfer. I don't think I draw in a commercial enough way for that to happen, but you never fucking know. Maybe. Also, drawing stars seems really hard because I don't ink, and most of the way stars are drawn is ink splatters. So I don't know that that's happening. I would love to take over Fantastic Four though. I love Fantastic Four. Doom's my favorite villain, and I love Reed.
I think you done already answered my next question then, because I was going to ask out of curiosity if there was a character or book you could take over, what would it be?
Oh, it'd be the Phantom, 100%.
Oh, the 100%. Phantom?
Oh yeah. I don't know if you read Halloween Boy, but
I got pretty far into it. I don't know exactly how far. I'll finish it later, Davey. You like? Yeah, I didn't expect you to be like. I didn't expect you to be like, "Hey man, let's just do it tonight." I'm just sitting there like, that's what I do to people. What is this shit? But then again, actually, I'm pretty sure that's the same way book deck for the show, if memory serves me proper, who will be coming up here pretty soon again, just so everyone knows. But yeah, so
yeah, the Halloween Boy, which is the book I've been working on for the past year or so. There's 5 issues of it. They're all double sized, and the last 2 are triple sized. And it follows a globe-trotting adventurer named Halloween Boy, who is the patron saint of lost causes or impossible situations. So whenever somebody's in an unwinnable scenario, a no-win scenario, they show up on his floating island, Hades Island, and they're like, "Yeah, help us out, Halloween Boy." And he's like, "All right, sounds good." And then they go on an adventure together. And the book started because in the summer of 2019, 2020, I don't remember the year. I was poking around, emailing some people to try and get licenses for a company that I was working as an editor at. And we got some meetings at King Features to talk about taking over the Phantom and Flash Gordon from them. And over the course of that pitch process, I was asked, what is your take on the Phantom? What is it? And so I wrote some God documents about fixing some of the problems that I saw in my beloved The Ghost Who Walks, and namely the colonial racist stuff. It's not so great. Not so awesome. So I wrote this big giant God doc, and I outlined like 2 years worth of books, and then a giant crossover at the end. And ultimately, King Features didn't want to do it, and that's their prerogative. They own the rights to the characters. And so then after I finished drawing Mary Tyler Moorhawk, which is my graphic novel that comes out from Top Shelf in February, I was looking for another thing to do, and I was like, well, maybe I'll just work on this. Maybe I'll file the serial numbers off of my Phantom idea and do something weird with it. And here we are, 5 issues later.
I like.
And yeah.
Maybe I'll file the serial numbers off my Phantom idea.
I mean, the Phantom idea, frankly, is already like almost not the Phantom. The thing I was pitching is basically like, what if Indiana Jones was a member of the X-Files in the 400 years in the future? So it'd be like Star Trek meets X-Files meets Indiana Jones, and our main guy would be a descendant of the Phantom, 665 generations down the line. There'd be all kinds of weird, kooky pulp ideas, but also filtered through the lens of like, our guy does not remember the intergenerational trauma or colonial history that the Phantom descends from. Therefore, he's free of that. But over the course of these standalone adventures, he's going to start figuring out that his family lineage descends from this Bengalan, ostensibly, like, you know, it's not slave trade, but like white savior trade. And so, that was kind of the pitch. And I think understandably, like I get why you would not want to lean into the racist history of the character. I get it. And ultimately, I think Halloween Boy, some of those ideas are very prevalent, and some of those ideas morphed and changed over the course of the book. But he's still there. Like I did a sample image where I was like, this is what my version of the Phantom would be. And it was the Phantom, with his cowl, with a backpack and pouches and like a bunch of knives and a bunch of guns, riding a dinosaur through the jungle. And I was like, this is with the tone. The tone is like, instead of the Phantom riding a horse through the jungle, it's like sci-fi Phantom riding a fucking T-Rex through the jungle. So it's kind of goofy, but also like has a heart to it. And hopefully that's what Halloween Boy eventually evolved into, is this kind of, story about intergenerational trauma and dealing with the quote unquote sins of the father through these standalone kind of revisionist pulp stories filtered through my indie art comics lens that then culminate in a big knockdown, drag out, Helm's Deep-esque finale.
I don't know if we can top you got the Phantom riding a dinosaur in the forest.
It's pretty funny too, because one of the
Yes.
pages in that first issue is literally just that concept art piece, but I changed the helmet. Because Halloween Boy has these giant ears on the sides of his head that are kind of like this big triangle shape. So I literally just traced that concept art and then added Halloween Boy's mask over the Phantom's mask. And I was like, fuck it. They're not going to use this. Like, they're literally never going to, they can't, because they didn't pay me. So, and I obviously don't own the Phantom, so I can't do that. So, Halloween Boy, here we go.
Man, I wonder how often that happens.
I think pretty regularly, frankly.
Yeah, like I could see that. It makes me wonder if there's a bunch of people that like have pitched like Batman stories, and then that's why you see so many Batman replicas, and it's because they were like, I'm just gonna take that and like make this and just alter a few things. Give him, yeah, like I wonder how many. Not that I mean, he's God. How many versions of Batman are there, Davey?
Yeah, no shit, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
right.
one of the inspirations for me doing that was, my favorite comic of all time is Casanova by Fraction and Ba and Moon. And that book started as a Marvel pitch. It started as a Dominic Fortune Jr. pitch. And, once you know that, it's pretty apparent of like, oh, Casanova Quinn is Dominic Fortune Jr., Ruby Berserko is MODOK, the guy with the mustache is Dum Dum Dugan. His dad is Nick Fury. Like, it's pretty apparent. Like, oh, fucking Newman Zeno is Baron von what's his face, the Hydra guy from the Steranko run. Like,
Baron
they're
von
all
Zemo.
like, oh, you can kind of like squint and see what the original pitch sort of was. And yeah, I love Casanova, and I don't think that's a particularly big shock too. When you look at Halloween Boy, you can draw a pretty straight line to Casanova, just in terms of like that does for spy tropes and spy genre elements, what Halloween Boy does with pulp genre elements. Making the hyper personal, hyper specific, real life, almost pseudo biography, but filtered through the lens of these tropey kind of standard story elements that we've all seen before, but they feel fresh because they have this personal spin put on them. And then also the fact that every issue has an essay in the back from me talking about whatever, whether it's the real world stuff that was happening at the time where I was, or analyzing some piece of the creative influence, pie, what have you. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of the way those Halloween Boy books came out. I wasn't exactly sure if that they would hold together when I first started, but the response has been very rewarding. People really,
I've enjoyed
have
what I've read so far. I definitely intend to go back and finish it, man. I just like, you ever. I'm curious, like, how many comics do you read on a daily basis, dude? Because your knowledge on comics it makes me think you've got to read a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know what I read on a daily basis, but I read a lot. Yeah, for sure. I read a lot in general, though. I just read I just read this book called Every Love Story is a Ghost Story by D.T. Max, which is a biography of the novelist David Foster Wallace. And it was fantastic. I loved it. It
Hey,
was
hey,
so
Davey, you got kids?
no, that's why I can read so much.
All right. So, for anything we've had in this conversation, I want to let y'all know there are links in the description where you can find all of Davey's work, right? As well as, if you want to support the show, there's Patreon. You can check out my music. There's all kinds of, there's a, there's a lot of links. Just if you scroll down, it'll tell you what the link is. It's there. It's a thing, and then you click the link and it takes you to the thing and it takes you to the thing. And you get the thing and support the thing and listen to the thing. And it's the thing, right? Because that's the thing. Right now, I want to let you know if you've enjoyed this interview with Davey. All right, all right. Davey didn't answer all my questions. All right, that's not cool. But what I
I
want you to
didn't. I thought
do?
I did.
No, you didn't, man. What three wishes you got?
I don't have three wishes, bro. I
See,
don't
that's
have
what I'm
three wishes.
saying. Davey's just
Yeah.
gotten, and I know you didn't, man. That's why when I was looking at this and it got to the point where what's your favorite or what's your least favorite part of your job? And how long this shit takes. I was like, I had to look up the question. I was like, is he talking about this questionnaire?
I mean, I kind of was at a certain point. I was like, bro, this is like 400 questions. We're not gonna get to half of these.
It's like, firstly, it's like 40, and secondly, they can go to the Patreon and they can view them all from every past guest. Because, no, I never get into all these fucking answers. Davey, are you shitting me? But
It's too
I
many,
think,
bro. It's too
I
many.
think
Give me 10 questions. Give me
But
10.
but but
40?
look, but I
It's
think it's also
crazy.
but understand because there's this interview which I think goes in depth with the creator on a whole different level of things. And if anybody out there wants to know just some random ass facts about a bunch of comic book creators, go to the Patreon for the questionnaire. And from favorite colors, comic book arts, characters, this, that. I mean, sometimes, and also the reason there are so many questions is because based on the answers is based on what's got into in that particular interview. If you went back, Davey, and like while you're working, just sit and listen to the questionnaire, you'll note that in the 70 plus episodes that are currently out, there are differences in the questions that are used as far as for the questionnaire, except for this part, Davey. So back to what I was saying, man, right? Right? All right. If you enjoyed this interview with Davey, what I want you to do is I want you to send him a Mothman and a Bigfoot, right? Like some chill ones, right? All right. And I want you to have him a pirate Batman from Legend of the Dark Knight Kenner series. That's what I want the Mothman to bring, right? Now, the Bigfoot, you didn't answer all my questions, Davey.
Apparently I didn't. So
You really didn't.
let
But
me
okay,
know.
so the Bigfoot, Lomo Satido?
Lomo saltado, yeah.
Lomo
Yeah.
Saltado, okay.
It's a Peruvian dish. It's very
All right,
good.
so yeah, we'll just that, right? Yeah, that's what I want the Bigfoot to have for Davey, right?
Sounds
You
great.
send him to
Sounds
him.
great.
He'll love it. Right now, if you didn't enjoy this interview, I think people are getting annoyed with my questionnaire. Either that or everybody in the comic book community is being like, look, don't answer these questions. Because he'll take these particular answers and twist them up in some way or another into something horrendous So like people have stopped answering certain questions, Davey. I'm telling you, like it's what I'm starting to think, and the more it happens, the more I'm be like, this is a
This is
goddamn
too many, bro.
fucking.
This is too many. This fucking Crisis on Infinite Earths of questionnaires, bro.
They're like one word answers, man.
We're all out here. We're all busy people. 40 questions?
I could.
That's too many.
Well, here, if you didn't like this interview, what I want you to do, yeah, is I want you to send the demon from The Exorcist. Not the kid, but the actual demon that was
Yeah.
possessing the child. To possess Davy. To make
What is
him sit and fill out questionnaires endlessly
yeah.
forever. That's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
like just saying it's just gonna like regurgitate some stupid ass random question, Davy. And then you've got
Yeah.
to fucking answer it. That's what I want you to do if you did not enjoy this interview with Davey Baker. But man, I hope you did. You know what I'm saying? This has been the questionnaire with Davey Baker. Like I said, make sure you check out all those links in the description. Besides that, just 3 things I want you to do. 1, give it that thumbs up, or whatever service you're using the equivalent to. I don't know. We're on a lot of places, right? 2, get your comic on. 3, have a good night, y'all.
Like to play it like Wade. Anti-hero. Fuck Batman, I got no kid. Anti-hero. Superman is a little bitch. Anti-hero. Play the middle, comfy bitch.
This is Tony Fleece. I'm the writer of Stray Dogs and the writer and artist of Local Man. You're watching/listening to the questionnaire. Some of them like nuts, some of them don't. Some of them think Godzilla could fuck up King Kong. Some of them are indifferent to the whole thing. Neither of them really fuck with NSYNC. But you're listening to the questionnaire everywhere you listen to podcasts.